Hey guys, if you're new here, I'm Grassy Cow, and today I'm going to be doing part 2 of my video for building the Bridgerton house in The Sims 4. Sorry it's a little bit late. I did kind of just forget this video existed for a minute. I've been a little bit sick and I've been doing some traveling, so bear with me. In part 1, I got done with most of the building on the outside and completed the stairs, but I didn't like these stairs, so I spent some time editing them to be a little bit different, and that was just a really long clip, so I just did a transition there to show the new product, which I think actually looked a lot better and is more functional when there's actually Sims in this household, because those other stairs were a little bit buggy. And then I started building this upstairs level and realized that those stairs curving like that wouldn't work really well with the walls. So, because of where I wanted to put walls, I just decided to straighten those out. And then I started making this top floor plan section, which I was planning would be a hallway to connect all of the bedrooms and the morning room on the top floor. Here you can see I did more tweaking around with how the stairs were looking, and I think that the paints on the walls were not working right, and they were bugging out, and I had to keep on switching it to figure out how I could get it to work. But I think I eventually figured it out. And I made this balcony area here, in the Bridgerton series, you can see sometimes when they're in this room, you can see the top floor. So I think there's sort of a balcony here, but, obviously I have to work with my own creativity to figure out what the inside of this house should look like, because not everything is very described in Bridgerton, So right about here is where I started working on the morning room, and this is actually one of my favorite parts because it's the room that has the most reference pictures online, and it is one of the rooms we see the most in Bridgerton. So I was really excited to build it and put my own spin on things, and also, Sims doesn't have everything that Bridgerton does, so it's cool because I have to take some creative liberties to make something that's sort of close to what it looks like in Bridgerton. It's not 100% exactly, So it was one of my favorites. Figuring out the wall placement and window placement in here is kind of weird because there's 2 sections of this room, and I don't think that there's actually a wall in between, but there's a column and a spandrel that separate the room in the show, and I couldn't make that work with the window in the middle, so I was trying different ways to figure out how I thought that should look. But I think I found a good middle ground. Obviously, it's not going to be a one-to-one because, The Sims is different, and it doesn't have all the same building aspects that actual architecture in real life does. So you kind of have to work with what you've got. And I found some good ways to work around it and figured it out. But I'm really excited about this room because it was fun to build, and the different things, I think I sized down a piano at some point and it made it look actually realistic sized to what it looks like in Bridgerton, because in Bridgerton the piano doesn't take up the whole room, but in The Sims it would. So I think that it's cool to have those kind of features. These photos on the walls, also, I got them from custom content. There aren't any that are a actual man and a woman that it would be like the actual photo they had of Edmund and Violet like on the wall, but I think that I figured out some cool ways to make this work. See, there's a size down piano there, and I had to move around some of the furniture to make it actually fit in the space, because this is about scaled to size of what I thought that this room should be size-wise, but some of the furniture in The Sims is bigger than it looks like it should be, So I found a way to make it work. It's pretty cool to see it all come together and see how the furniture worked in the space, and like the different sizes that I was able to make things so it would fit. That piano looks more realistic, sized down a couple than the size it normally is. It is a grand piano, but that's more accurate to the size it actually is in Bridgerton. So some of these chairs and things were a little bit difficult to figure out. I decided on different tables from. I switched the tables around a bunch. Trying to figure out things that would fill out this room, but that made sense to be in there, was a little bit more difficult. I knew that there had to be different type of sofas on either side of the room because they're not the same in Bridgerton. And then those tables and chairs, it was difficult because I thought that they should be sized down to look realistic to size, but if they're sized down, the things were all floating on top of them. The items couldn't stay flat on the table, so that was difficult to figure out. I just decided that maybe they should just be empty tables, and then I found out that the plants were also floating on the tables in the corner, so I decided to just size them normally. But it all worked out, and I figured out that room, and it turned out pretty well in my opinion. Over here I decided to build up these walls in the back to make bedrooms, which I assume that the women's bedrooms would have all been on the top floor, because in that time period they would have wanted the women to be as safe as possible, so women and children would have probably slept on the upper floors of the building. And my best guess for how to figure it out was, that I could just make 4 identical bedrooms. I thought if I plan one bedroom, for the sake of saving time, I could just make 4 of the same bedroom, and they'd be Daphne, Eloise, Francesca, and Hyacinth, right? And I haven't at this point quite figured out where everybody else was going to go, but I thought that was pretty good for the second floor, because I figured that the 4 of them would be on the top floor. I hadn't quite figured out Violet's bedroom situation yet, because obviously she would have been in the main suite of the house if she was the Viscountess when Edmund was alive, but since his death, that bedroom would belong to Anthony. I'm not sure exactly if we can prove that, like, that they actually did switch, because in a few of the flashbacks, Anthony said he didn't want to switch with his mother, but it's possible that by the time that we are seeing these seasons, that may have happened. So I just designed 4 identical bedrooms for girls, that would, they have a vanity, they have a wardrobe, and each their own individual bathroom. But obviously, in the 1800s, they didn't have functioning toilets the same way we do now. So with The Sims, I'm making that difference. It's not going to obviously be true to history. There aren't chamber pots to use for The Sims. So I did actually just put a toilet and a bathtub in there. But that probably is, that's definitely unrealistic for history. But I'm not trying to be historically accurate here. I'm just, aesthetically accurate as much as I can. It's kind of difficult when we didn't get a fully mapped out house for the Bridgertons. We see rooms and then it cuts to a different room. We've never seen them walk around the entire house. So you kind of just have to work with what you've got. And based on that knowledge, I think that I actually eventually turned this room into a study, but it was the perfect size to start building a bedroom for the boys. And I actually ended up doing the same thing with the boys. I just made a 1 bedroom and then started making copies of it. But I thought, I'll just build it here. You can kind of move rooms around. So, I could make it from here, copy it, paste it, put it somewhere else if I chose that that's not where it was going to go. And I said I'd make 4 identical versions of it because, there's Anthony, Benedict, Colin, and Gregory. And then all that I had to figure out is which one, all that I'd have to figure out after that is, did Anthony and Violet switch rooms? Because if so, then one of these rooms would become hers, if they had switched and he took the main suite, he would have redecorated it, probably wouldn't look the same as when she had it, and he redecorated it to be his room, and then she would probably have redecorated his room to be like hers. So I haven't gotten that far yet, but based on this, I decided to make a study here, and that would be Anthony's study. That's on the main floor. They walk into it a lot when they have to have a serious conversation. It's usually quick walk from the stairwell where they usually are having a conversation, like something crazy happened, and then they just quickly, he pulls them into the study and they're having a manly conversation. I did struggle for a little bit figuring out how to make this bookshelf work, because what I wanted was a bookshelf to be on top of the fireplace, because that's what it looks like in Bridgerton, but it's kind of difficult to do in The Sims. I'm sure that there's a way, but I'm not super tech savvy, so I just opted for putting a photo there that would be the photo of Edmund that's in the bookcase in Bridgerton. There's a bookcase that's there, and then there's a shelf that has a picture of Edmund in that shelf. So it's more, it's not like that, but I had to find a way to make it work. So I designed the rest of the study based on what it looks like. There are some blue chairs by the fireplace, and that's where they would sit and have a one-to-one conversation about what the other one did wrong or whatever, and threw a door in there and copied and pasted it over here. Obviously I had to delete the bedroom that I made, but then I decided that would be the secondary study, where it was kind of Benedict's art studio for a little while. They did have 2 studies that you can clearly see are 2 different places, where one of them is where Benedict and Colin spend a lot of their time, and the other one was where Anthony always was. So obviously the main man of the house had a different study, and then the the second son would not be in the same study. So I made a different study, and I felt like there was pretty good progress there at that point, but I decided there should probably be some downstairs bathrooms because, like, in The Sims, they're gonna walk all the way upstairs to wash a plate in the sink or something, and I didn't want them to be doing that. So I started building the basement here, and it was difficult to get the stairs to work how I wanted because you have to actually have enough space to build the stairs in that shape before you can place them. But it did actually eventually end up working out that the stairs looked the way that I wanted them to, and they wrapped around the right way. And I decided there's like going to be like a whole hallway in the basement where it leads to that underground kitchen and dining room that we've seen now in season 4. And I don't think that I did much work on the actual kitchen or anything, but I did want to test the functionality of the house, so I put my sim in it really quickly, and I tested if some of the things would work, some of the things that I didn't think would, and I changed all of the lights to be like one shade of blue because I don't like the yellow lights that happen in The Sims 4. They kind of are a bad vibe, but technically in Bridgerton they would have all used candlelight, so the light would not have been blue. I'm aware of that. But for me in The Sims, I think that the yellow light doesn't work well. It doesn't actually light up the room as much as I'd like. So I know that it really wouldn't work like that in Bridgerton, but I decided that the blue lights made the house look better. So I changed all the lights to be blue, and then I did some, this is where I moved it to a different lot because it didn't have enough space to work on the outside stuff, and I wanted to add another room, so I moved it to a bigger lot, but that's not really a big change. I just moved it to a different world where there was more space, and there's still a lot across the street where I can build the Bridgerton house, the Featherington house, so it should still work out for them to be across the street from each other. And then I did the fence, and I added an addition to the back, which is where I was thinking I'm going to work in a small ballroom and the master suite where the Viscount and Viscountess would sleep, because obviously I didn't have enough space left in the house for where that main room would be, and it's an important space, and I did kind of forget about the ballroom thing. But I think that on the bottom floor right there will be a ballroom, and then on top of that I'm going to work in probably another hallway and a master suite and a master bathroom. Then that will be Anthony's bedroom, and then I will edit one of the other bedrooms on the bottom floor to be Violet's bedroom. So you can see here that I edited some of the doors on those bedrooms because I couldn't place doors to the master suite because they were taking up 2 blocks of space. So I changed the doors to be a door that took up 1 block of space so that I could fit a door on the walls to the main suite. And I edited those stairs on the ballroom floor to be able to be stairs up and then stairs back into the ballroom. I don't know what I'll do with that. Eventually I might change that too. Honestly, I'm not really liking those stairs either, and I might change all of that in the next video. Also in the next video, I'm probably going to work on the ballroom and that main master bedroom. Well, thank you guys for hanging out with me today, and if you like this video, please like and subscribe.